You guys, a few of you want to be teachers, or was it all of you?
Okay.
I want
2 of us.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. So what do you, like, what's your, I mean, when did that, I've talked to you about that, and we were working together last year before I mean, it was probably like April when I decided I wasn't gonna teach another year, and then I kind of just forgot the conversation that we were having because everything changed so quickly after that. But when did you figure that out?
I think I've always wanted to be a teacher. I think really it was back in first grade. I was just I'd love to be a teacher. And then throughout the years it was always I want to be a first grade teacher, then I want to be a second grade teacher. And it was really whatever grade I was in. And so I think now I just kind of go back and forth on what I want to teach, but I know for me I'd like to be an administrator one day after I teach, and then maybe even try to go for higher things, and maybe even go into politics for advocating for education, just because I think it's so important. But
yeah, good. It's a good path. That seems to be the trajectory that I've kind of accidentally been on. I didn't plan it that way, but that was the direction that I was going. I mean, I don't know. Maybe in the future, still, I can. I looked at state representative and Senate seats in the area, and it's just you have to pick a tag. If you didn't have to pick a Republican Democrat tag, that would be a lot nicer, because no matter what, you're going to have people against you, half the American world, or whatever you want to consider it. But yeah, that's why school boards are nice, because you don't have to put that tag next to you.
True.
So then it makes it a little bit easier. But yeah,
still difficult.
Yeah, it is. I mean, get into the classroom as much as you can, though. Does the high school have a program to get you guys into classrooms? Do you know?
So there's this thing called Education Academy that you can take at Scott. I sadly couldn't take it because I do student council, and so it conflicts with my schedule with that, and I wouldn't be able to go to my morning meetings. But what they do is they you learn for 9 weeks basically how to be a teacher, and then the next 9 weeks you go into a classroom each day at an elementary school or middle school, and you get to teach there. For me, I kind of found a loophole of because I want to get into the classroom, so I'm going to my counselor set up an internship for me to help at the middle school somehow in classrooms. So we're still getting the final stuff on that, because they're figuring out that stuff now basically, but next quarter I'll be at the middle school hopefully. So
yeah, that'll be awesome. And that's good, because once you get into education you realize there's many observation hours where I mean, it's almost like they don't think you've been in classes for the last however many years of your life. But I mean, I think I put in over 100 observation hours in classrooms, and there's a lot of I mean, some of it's really good, but but some of it's also just kind of well, I'm sitting here as a student again while I'm attending classes in college, while I've already had all. But yeah, as soon as you can get into it, because I remember when I first taught, it was just me. I taught kindergartners, and I was maybe I'm not a teacher. Maybe that's just I just don't know if this is my thing. Maybe and I mean, I was with my wife. She was my girlfriend at the time, but I was that just really didn't go well, and I felt really uncomfortable, and so it just doesn't feel right. Maybe I should just go back, because I went engineering before I switched to teaching, and I didn't like engineering either, and then I switched to education, and I was in that kindergarten classroom running it my own, and I was I don't know if this is my thing. And then finally, after a couple rounds of it was still uncomfortable, but you get more used to it, and then I got a job, and the first day of my first year you're just pit stains probably, oh my gosh. And then the week goes by and you're okay. Then by the end of the year you're well, hopefully it's better next year. You just learn things and you grow and you get better. But getting into the classroom is big. If you guys are interested in that, it's huge.
Good to know.
Mitch,
Thanks.
Do you want to be a science teacher?
So right now I'd like to be a biology anatomy teacher. I've been kind of going in between being a biology teacher and being a psychology teacher, because I really love psychology too, but I've always stuck with biology for years. So
yeah, I hated biology.
Really?
And I can trace it back to freshman year of high school. I don't remember the teacher's name. He was a nice guy, really nice guy, but it was very just memory heavy, and it was read this book, do this thing, and I was like,
there wasn't any flow to it. It was just like,
and it was very choppy. I remember the final was like 100 multiple choice questions. I think they gave me the test ahead of time, and they were like, it was just really weird, but wasn't a good experience. And like ever since then, I was like, biology's memorizing, and that's what. And it's, I mean, to some degree it is, but I never got to any of the other stuff. And then when I got hired for a biology class in 7th grade, and I was like, well, I'll figure it out, you know. And so then I got into genetics, and I was kind of self-teaching myself because I was physics and chemistry. But biology's awesome. Yeah. Once you, once I got over that. Once I got over that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Which is.
Well, do you want to introduce yourself to the camera?
Yeah, so I'm probably not doing the flow of this like you guys normally do.
That's just fine.
Usually just start and then
usually
introduction.
Usually we say, welcome back to the Howl. I'm your co-host, Mitch. Molly's not here today. She's at jury duty. And we have Mr. Van here.
And my name is Brett Van Deventer, 7-year Bettendorf Middle School science teacher. I am a Superintendent Star Award-winning science teacher.
Yeah.
A failed school board nominee for North Scott, which is where I live, and I'm here today to talk to you guys.
Nice.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I wouldn't say failed. I'd say experienced.
Experienced. Yes, I've experienced. Yeah, I got 880 something votes, which is it's a nice feeling, like 880 people inconvenience themselves enough to to go out and circle my name on the ballot. I mean, a few of those are probably guesses, but just somebody who's like, well, I know I don't like that person, but it's still a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, that's
nice
good.
Feeling there. Yeah.
Nice.
At Fairway, I saw one of your signs in someone's car when I was.
Oh yeah,
really?
Yeah, good. Good. Was that recently? Because
yes.
So I probably need to. Yeah, I probably need to finish collecting all those. But no, it's the politics game was exciting and new, and I'm a veteran, and so who knows what'll be next. But yeah. Good.
So you now let me restart. What do you enjoy most doing right now?
Yeah, so I'm given a pretty cool opportunity with my family that most people don't have. My wife has a business that has grown while she stayed home with our daughters into something that's pretty successful now, successful enough that I can take a year off teaching. And so right now I am still working on building a routine so that I can be productive and do things that I want to do without compensating for dad time. And so I mean, probably the easiest way to think about it is you want to start your day off somewhat productive. Since I don't have the same schedule that I had with teaching, I'm not waking up at 5:30 a.m. and doing, this, and this, and then getting into the classroom and starting it. So instead, I'm setting up routines where in the morning, I'll get the day started on a productive footing. We'll do things with Quinn, which is my 3-year-old, make sure Lola gets to kindergarten, do all the dad stuff that you got to do, but basically setting up my day in a way that I can still do my side projects. With right now, side project number 1 is to create some form of an alternative program for severe behaviors. That's cool. I've got a couple of schools that I think do a really good job, but what I really want to do is see as many as I can, and then look into either getting districts to invest in it, maybe like the Bettendorf, North Scott, PV. They have partnerships and similar things, but having a building that encompasses some of those severe behaviors so that you can actually get them the help that they want. And so I think there's a lot of things that need to happen, preferably outside of the school building, because of the challenges with some of those behaviors that you have when they're in there. And then there's suspension things that are going on at the state where suspension numbers are getting tighter, and so that's project number 1. Side project number 2 is making a mental health class that can be taught at probably the middle school level. Optimistically, by me in the future, if I go back, I would really like to leverage it and say, hey, I'll write this myself if you let me teach it, and I can have control over the curriculum. But I think it's probably, it's definitely needed, definitely coming, probably something that needs to happen now rather than later.
Yeah. No, that's super cool.
Also a prevalent issue.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I mean, you hear a lot, at like the state level right now. I think there's a bunch of money that just went to a mental health bill from the governor. Mm-hmm. And the direction seems to be training. I think they want to get an hour of mental health training to all staff.
Yeah.
I mean, optimistically, that will be really good. The pessimistic side of me says that that's probably going to be a box checking thing,
right,
that the state can say, look, this is what we're doing for mental health, and it ends up being something that's not that productive. So,
right.
I mean, it's just really hard to blanket things at a state level. So, we'll see what happens. Maybe in the future there will be a mental health class everywhere. Yeah. For right now, I think it'd be good to pilot that.
Yeah. What would like the class like kind of encompass?
If I could do it my way.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys...
yeah, but there's so many restrictions.
Yeah, there are. And so when you're creating new curriculum, there's obviously some things that you're going to have to focus on. And you look at... there's emotional standards now at the state level. Mm-hmm. So you'd probably look at like social emotional standards for the middle school age range and then start to build a curriculum out from that. If I could do it my way, it would be some of the same things that you guys saw when you were in my class. I mean, I really like talking about the nervous system, and I think neuroscience and education are way farther apart than they should be. There's a surprising amount of distance between brain science in the last 20 years and what is going into teaching things like reading, learning, like brain development, all that stuff. And so it's really hard to update education for things that are happening in science. And so I'd like to, put some of that in, talk about mental health disorders, depression, maybe throw in some things like Alzheimer's, neurodegenerative diseases, and then obviously coping skills. I think social skills are big too. And we need to be a lot more explicit than we've probably ever been as a society, because technology just brings up different challenges. And I'm not one of those haters who says, technology's bad, kids are ruined, blah, blah, blah. But I think we probably, especially with traditional skills, we probably just need to be more explicit about teaching them and make sure, make sure we know what we're doing.
Yeah, no, that's good.
So, yeah.
I think I remember in your class you covered mental health.
Yeah.
You definitely did.
Yeah. Well, I really like talking about that, and it's a side of me that I don't get a chance to do as much. I mean, most of my classes kind of run on high energy, or at least that's what I try to do. I mean, I've tried to be more of an energetic, fun person, but as far as like those topics go, I really like when we can go serious, and I think probably leveraging a year's worth of my personality to being serious, I think it leads to a sincerity and an authenticity that maybe you don't get all the time, or if different people had covered it. But yeah, that's what I'd really like to see. So
nice. Now, what made you want to get into teaching in the first place?
So I think I followed a similar path to what you guys had said earlier, where I had always been interested in it. It's something that I had really good teachers. That I had a second grade teacher, Ms. Vinky, that I really liked. I had a high school physics teacher, Mr. King, that I really liked. I had a middle school science teacher, Mr. Smith, that I really liked. I mean, a lot of science teachers along the way, but there was a lot of good teachers, and so I've always wanted to do it. For money reasons, I started off with engineering, and I don't regret that at all. I mean, it was good to explore with it. I did a lot of job shadowing. I followed a civil engineer, industrial engineer, a construction manager, and I think a mechanical engineer. I did a lot of job shadowing, and the whole time I was just really bored and thinking, I don't know if this is what I want to do. And so after I got into the classes, I changed focus, and I decided to go to teaching, and that's when I switched. I went from Iowa, then to Kirkwood for 2 years for the education track, and then eventually UNI, and part of that was to save money. Nice. But then by the time I got to UNI, switched it over to science, and the rest kind of went with it. Nice. There's also, and it's not the popular answer. Most people, if they say, why did you go into teaching? Because of the kids. Because, if you were going to clip this down to my nice answer, I'd say it's because of the kids, because I want to help and do all that. And that's definitely part of it. But there's a lot of nice other benefits that go along with it. And I'm not even talking like summers. Obviously, that is a nice perk too. But you do have a good amount of control over your day. And it's one of the reasons why I mean, I would make an argument all day that there are. I have made that argument when I was running for school board that there's a lot of problems facing teachers right now, and there's a reason why there's a lot of people leaving the profession. I think the attrition rate was like within 5 years, it's somewhere around 50%, and so it's really bad, and it's a big problem because they get into the classroom. I mean, you could argue they're unprepared for the behaviors. There's just a lot of paperwork, and like everybody knows grading, but I mean, there's a lot of other things that are mandated by schools and districts and state that make it more challenging than you'd like it to be. But you also, to a certain degree, have a good amount of control over your day, and that's something that I always liked is. I mean, if the day is boring and not very great, you can blame it on some things, but you can also be like, well, I'll get more prepared next time. I'll make a better lesson. I'll make something that's going to be more exciting. And so over the course of the time that I grew as a teacher, I got better at making more of those days interesting so that I'd enjoy it.
Yeah, but that's super cool.
Yeah. So, if you go that route, I think... It takes some time, but you can definitely get to a point. Like I'm probably every year I got better. Like last year was probably my best year. The year before that was my best year. Every year I got better, and this year would have been my best year by far too. But you get better at making each day more enjoyable.
No, I get that. It's just cool that a teacher gets to learn and grow too, not just the students.
Yeah, hopefully you're learning and growing, and it might not be as comfortable as it. I mean, you definitely get out of your comfort zone because there's kind of an unspoken myth that you get something and then you can just reuse it. It gets easier and you get more efficient. And I spent maybe 3 years trying to automate my grading to a point where I was doing very little, as little as possible because I wanted to spend more time planning and less time grading. Now you have to, and there's a boundary. And I probably, I went back and forth on whether or not I just wasn't grading enough sometimes, whether or not I wasn't doing good enough with my assessments, whatever. Because I mean, I've always loved to plan fun, engaging lessons, and you got to find that middle ground where you're doing a lot of good teaching and kids are enjoying it and having fun. And there are times when I've gotten to the fun side probably too much and not put enough of an emphasis on making sure that we're getting the depth of learning. And there's been a back and forth. I'd say I'm probably more on the enjoyment side, more so than like really hitting a hard depth. But it's a battle that you got to do, and you want to find a good balance. So
nice. Well, we're coming towards the end of our filming time. You can see all the kids running away from the cafeteria. Are there any final words you want to say?
Yeah, no, it's good seeing you guys.
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
It's one of the things, like I said this off camera, but I mean, you don't get a chance to see former students as often as you'd like, And I've got two sisters that are teachers too. They both teach elementary. And I mean, at least at a middle school, there's I mean, you guys are aware of
what's going on.
Yeah, and so I mean, people do write notes, and I emailed Noah. I can communicate. I mean, as an elementary teacher, sometimes you can kind of lose track as kids grow. They, their memories kind of fade differently, and so it's always nice to to go and talk to people and see how you guys have grown, and it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you again for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. I think we all enjoyed it. Definitely.
I hope so.
Awesome.
It was a good time.